MC. Hey guys, we got short stories with TrailBot. Oh boy, The Moth, Part 3. That's some H.G. Wells classic short story. Today, the drive. Oh, we heading along the Utah 128 west towards Moab, if you will. We just left the Dewey Bridge Campground, and we hung a right, and we just boogieing along. And now, this story, we's on The Moth, Part 3. Where we left this thing off, we found out that one of these scientists, there was two of them, is going back and forth on who was the better bug scientist. And it turns out this one guy's kind of sick, so he was just not bringing it. You know, the other guy was insulting him, and he tried to fire back, and it was just kind of a dud. So nobody quite knew what was going on here. So we'll just kind of pick it up there. But few of us, those who heard him, I was absent from that meeting, realized how ill the man was. Happily got his opponent down and meant to finish him. He followed with a simply brutal attack upon Pawkins in the form of a paper upon the development of moths in general. A paper showing evidence of a most extraordinary amount of mental labor, and yet couched in a violently controversial tone. Violent as it was, an editorial note witnesses that it was modified. It must have covered Pawkins with shame and confusion of face. It left no loophole. It was murderous in argument, and utterly contemptuous in tone. An awful thing for the declining years of a man's career. The world of entomologists waited breathlessly for the rejoinder from Pawkins. He would try one, for Pawkins had always been game. But when it came, it surprised them, for the rejoinder of Pawkins was to catch influenza, proceed to pneumonia, and die. Oh, what a loser! It was perhaps as effectual a reply as he could make under the circumstances, and largely turned the current of feelings against Hapley. The very people who had most gleefully cheered on those gladiators became serious at the consequence. There could be no reasonable doubt the fret of the defeat had contributed to the death of Pawkins. There was a limit even to scientific controversy, said serious people. Another brushing attack was already in the press and appeared on the day before the funeral. I don't think Hapley exerted himself to stop it. People remembered how Hapley had hounded down his rival and forgot that rivals' defects. Scathing satire reads ill over fresh mold. The thing provoked comment in the daily papers. This it was that made me think that you had probably heard of Hapley and his controversy. But, as I have already remarked, scientific workers live very much in a world of their own. Have the people, I dare say, who go along Piccadilly to the Academy every year, could not tell you where the learned societies abide. Many even think that research is a kind of happy family cage in which all kinds of men lay down together in peace. In his private thoughts, Hapley could not forgive Pawkins for dying. In the first place, it was a mean dodge to escape the absolute pulverization Hapley had in hand for him. And in the second, it left Hapley's mind with a queer gap in it. For 20 years he had worked hard, sometimes far into the night and 7 days a week, with a microscope, scalpel, collecting net and pen, and almost entirely with reference to Pawkins. The European reputation had wait a second, let's start that whole little bit over. Now, let's just pretend we'll take a look at this drive here. Ooh, boy, that's a pretty drive. The European reputation he had come as an incident in that great antipathy. Wow, starting to lose it here. He had gradually worked up to a climax in his last controversy. It had killed Pawkins, but it had also thrown Hapley out of gear, so to speak, and his doctor advised him to give up work for a time and rest. So Hapley went down into a quiet village in Kent and thought day and night of Pawkins, and good things it was now impossible to say about him. At last, Hapley began to realize in what direction the preoccupation tended. He determined to make a fight for it, and started by trying to read novels. But he could not get his mind off Pawkins. White in the face and making his last speech, every sentence a beautiful opening for Hapley, he turned to fiction, and found it had no grip on him. He read the Island Nights entertainments until his sense of causation was shocked beyond endurance by the bottle imp. Then he went to Kipling and found he proved nothing, besides being irrelevant and vulgar. These scientific people have their limitations. Then, unhappily, he tried Besant's Inner House, and the opening chapter set his mind upon learning societies and Pawkins at once. All right, let's take a look at this drive. See what's going on. We're closing in on the Moab. Not much more exciting than that, I guess. But, we got a little ways to go yet here. Okay. Let's see if I can find my spot back. Oh, boy. Yeah, that's not going to be good. Oh, here we go. Found a learning societies and Pawkins at once. So, Hapley turned to chess and found it a little more soothing. He soon mastered the moves and the chief gambits and commoner closing positions, and began to beat the vicar. But then the cylindrical contours of the opposite king began to resemble Pawkins, standing up and gasping ineffectually against checkmate, and Hapley decided to give up chess. Perhaps the study of some new branch of science would, after all, be better diversion. The best rest is change of occupation. Hapley determined to plunge at diatoms, and had one of his smaller microscopes and Halibut's monograph set down from London. He thought that perhaps if he could get up a vigorous quarrel with Halibut, he might be able to begin life afresh and forget Pawkins. And very soon he was hard at work in his habitual strenuous fashion at these microscopic denizens on the wayside pool. So he's going to pick a fight with somebody else. That'll make him feel better. Okay. It was on the third day of the diatoms that happily became aware of a novel addition to the local fauna. He was working late at the microscope, and the only light in the room was the brilliant little lamp with the special form of green shade. Like all experienced microscopists, he kept both eyes open. It is the only way to avoid excessive fatigue. One eye was over the instrument, and bright and distinct before that was the circular field of the microscope, across which a brown diatom was slowly moving. With the other eye happily saw, as it were, without seeing. He was only dimly conscious of the brass side of the instrument, the illuminated part of the tablecloth, a sheet of notepaper, the foot of the lamp, and the darkened room beyond. Whew. All right, that looks like a pretty good spot to stop. And let's just take a look. Oh yeah, we just about right there, guys. Thanks so much for coming along, and we'll catch you on the next one. Some see. Okay, and we'll leave you with just a little bit of big old Rosie, 'cause that makes me feel good right there.